to a process, a fight that would occur within yourself to be who you said you would be when no one else would be. To be who you said you'd be when no one else was around. That duel of honor continues. That process is continuing. But today, as I began to think through what I could share with you that would help you over the next 2 days, I began to think about competition, the word at the bottom of your shirt. Competition as a concept meaning strive together. That's the Latin root word of it. It means to strive together. It means to come together and strive and compete in a way to try to address within ourselves those things that need to improve. That's why we compete. Competition occurs on many levels. We compete for food. We compete for sales and business. We've competed our whole lives for attention, recognition. It's in our blood to compete. That's what we want to do. We want to compete and do the best we can in any setting we're in. Sports provides us the best opportunity to compete. And as I think about what you're about to do today, my experience has been when you're talking to quarterbacks is they struggle with competition simply because many times they're not ready to compete. Why? Well, that's the part we regret, isn't it? Because we wish we'd have done better, been more prepared. We always wonder, why wasn't I at my best on the day that I had to compete? This is what I'm most concerned about for you. You are not going to win every competition you enter. It's not going to happen. You're going to get outplayed, outmanned, outgunned, outwitted at some point in your life. We understand this. But the issue is that we have to come to a place where we don't find ourselves unprepared. That at least you showed up and gave your best. Does that make sense? You don't want to show up and not give your game effort. That's the part that sticks with us. I wish I'd have played better. You know what I mean? So I'm going to give you a couple of thoughts that I believe will help you in preparation for competition. Not just here, but back at your school for a job, in the games you're going to play, and ultimately in your life. And obviously with you know, if you've been around me any time, I love acronyms. So we're going to talk about the word best. What does it mean to give your best? B-E-S-T. And as I got to thinking about, well, how do I give my best when I play? How do I give my best when I compete? The first word is B. And the B word simply is this. You got to breathe. When you're going to compete, you have to breathe. I realize that MMA and boxing and things like that tend to be violent sports. But one of the things you'll find out very quickly is that anytime you're in a very competitive environment, the thing we forget to do is the stuff that we think is going to happen normally. You got to be able to breathe. Sometimes we get so nervous and uptight, we don't even breathe. We hold our breath because we don't want to fail. We hold our breath because we're afraid we're going to make a mistake. How do I breathe, Coach? Well, it begins simply with what you believe. How does that work, Coach? Well, when I think about competition, the level of investment in that competition is driven by my commitment to it. Why does it matter that I give my absolute best in this game, and how can I remember to do that? Because sometimes we don't give our best effort. Sometimes we show up and we're not our best. And we're nervous, we're scared. We know we're not prepared. The other guy's more prepared. He's better skilled, better talent. So what is it I have to believe? Gentlemen, we've talked about this at the camps. Your belief has to be in a couple of key things. Number one, you got to believe that it's worth it to do what you're doing. The depth of which you believe that it's worth it to give your best effort will dictate how committed you are to it. If you're showing up today and you don't really believe this is any big deal, you're not going to do very well. You have got to invest yourself in the process. You can't go half-hearted into competition, can you? You're going to get beat. Some of you try to ease your way in because you're so nervous that you're afraid of failing, so you're not quite sure how to approach it. So you beat yourself before you ever start. Some of you don't believe very much in your own skills and abilities, so you don't invest. I would submit to you the same message that NFA has been preaching all along. This isn't about you. The biggest challenge we have in any opportunity in which we're going to be tested is not our belief in ourselves. It's our belief in our willingness to do what everybody else won't, and that is to invest in the people around us. Well, how do I do that here, Coach? Because I'm here by myself. Understand, wherever you go, you're representing. You're representing your families, you're representing your teammates, you're representing someone. I'm representing NFA today. A family of people that are committed to helping you get where you're going to go. If you don't believe this is worth it to give your best effort, we're not going to get your best effort. So when you go out every day to practice, if you don't believe practice is worth it, you're not going to give your best effort. How do I do that? Well, it's funny. The reason fear and doubt beat up most kids is because their why isn't strong enough. What do you mean, Coach? It means this. You don't know why you're here. Some of you think that the objective here is to go out and show everybody you're better than them. That's not what this is about. We don't need you to focus on being better. We'd like you to succeed, but the focus always has to be on what? We talk about this. Getting better. How do I do that? You got to dig deep, not in a love for the game or those or for what you're doing, but for those you're doing it for. So the bottom line here today is, if you don't believe it's worth it to give your best effort because you love those you represent, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. If it's all about self-preservation, not looking bad, not being fool, listen, it's going to fail. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to inhale, Passio. I want you to inhale a reminder that I love my teammates, I love my friends, I love my parents, and I'm going to represent them today. When you take that deep breath, I want you to breathe and inhale the reason you're here. I love those I'm serving. And I want you to exhale fear, doubt, concern, anxiety. You breathe in your passion to fight. That's a good thing. And you exhale fear, doubt, anxiety. You may have to do it a couple of times. Inhale. I'm here because I love those who I'm here to serve. I'm here because I want to represent my family well. I'm here because I want to represent my team well. And I'm going to exhale fear, anxiety, and doubt, the things that take me out. The second letter, E, engage. You have to engage this process. Well, I can't hit a target. I'm worried about failing. Listen, if you're worried about failing, you're not engaging. So you're going to have to learn a little bit about how to do this. A lot of teenagers, the way that they deal with things they're not good at is they kind of like, ain't no big deal. I don't care. Guys, you can never go into a game unwilling to engage the opponent. I don't care how big they are. I don't care how bad they are. I don't care how tough they are. You have to be willing to step up. Even if there's a little bit of nerves, even a little not sure, I'm going to engage. Some of you, it's hard to do. You'll go through the motions of it, but you won't engage. How do I make sure I do? It's back to the why. It's back to the why. As deep as your why goes, is as deep as you'll engage this fight. Are you going to get distracted? Are you going to let yourself get distracted by failure or a bad throw? You can't do it. You got to keep fighting. So you got to put the last bad throw behind you and go on to the next one. We have to do that every Friday night and every Saturday we're playing, don't we? That's how we're going to do it here. So don't retreat from the competition in your heart. Step up and engage it. This is the man you were born to be. It's time. It's time. The S, you're going to have to sacrifice. Well, I already willing to do that. Well, how do I sacrifice? It goes back to the why. Here's the thing. What am I going to sacrifice? You got to sacrifice everything when you're going to give your best. That means you may not win. That means you run the risk of losing. that means you run the risk of people seeing you not be as good as you are. You run the risk of being exposed in certain areas. Doesn't matter, I'm going for it. You're going to have to lay it all on the table. You got to sacrifice your right to preserve your reputation. You got to sacrifice your right to preserve what you want out of the deal. You just got to go all in. In a game, sometimes you guys are trying to preserve yourselves by you're playing a bigger team, a better team. You know they're better. You got to have that mindset that says they're going to have to carry me off the field because it ain't going to matter. I'm sacrificing everything. I'm all in. You know that mindset. If you've played this game at all, you have to make that determination in your heart. You're going to have to sacrifice your right to what you want, to your own selves and your own preservation. And the last letter, T. You're going to have to be tough. You're going to have to be tough. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. If there's one thing that I believe separates great quarterbacks from good ones, it's their toughness. It's the ability to engage a competitor and stay with it despite the prospect of failure. The uniqueness of success in an individual is not whether they get hit and get knocked down. Everybody gets knocked down. Everybody fails. I failed more than most of you combined. But I ain't quitting. The fight is not about not failing. Competition is not about not ever losing. If you never lose, you never try. Competition is about being tough in the areas you got to be tough. And that means you take a shot on the chin, you keep going. But emotionally, you got to be tough. Meaning you can't feel sorry for yourself if you fail. Spiritually, you got to be tough. Down in your spirit, you can't allow your disappointment to drag the thermostat down. Do you understand? Mentally, you can't let failure in your head in such a way where you talk yourself out of being successful. And physically, it's pretty straightforward. You play a violent game. You're going to get knocked down. You better deal with that. So, do we need to have a conversation about what that feels? No. We're tough. The bottom line on the best concept. What I believe, I got to breathe. What I believe, I got to breathe. It's got to go in and out of me, man. You got to live it. You can't fake it. Passio has to be your primary belief system in order to succeed this way. You can't go halfway. You can't just do it for one or two people. You got to be that way everywhere. You got to engage. You can't quit. You can't go in half-hearted. You got to be all in. You're going to have to sacrifice, meaning you're going to have to surrender time. You're going to have to surrender what you want. You're going to have to surrender a lot of things, your anxiety and fear and everything. And ultimately, you're going to have to be tough. The truth of the matter is there isn't anybody in this stadium that can do any of that for you. This is the coolest thing about being in an event where you compete. Only you can decide what best is for you. You're the only one that can look in the mirror when it's all said and done and say, I gave my best. This is the point of honor that we continue to drive home. You may not win the duel, but if you gave your best in a measure, you win. But if you leave here making excuses, feeling sorry for yourself, blaming other people, blaming situations, blaming the wind, blaming the coaches, blaming the targets, that's not your best. Leave it on the field, man. Win or lose, you understand? That's how we play. Referees are going to make bad calls. Get used to it. They're part of the opponent. Coaches are going to make weird decisions. Things are going to happen. But at the end of the day, for you to put your head on the pillow when this is all said and done and feel good about it, we need your best. I need you to believe it's worth it. I need you to engage without fear. How do I do that? You got to love what you're doing and who you're representing. I need you to sacrifice. Give us a great effort. And I need you to be tough. Tough emotionally, tough mentally, and stay in there. Does that make sense? Gentlemen, I'm very excited about what opportunities are presenting for you, and we want to support you in that.